Hi everybody, welcome to Shivers. Today we're doing a new movie review for the new movie Lee Cronin's The Mummy. This came out on Friday, April 17th. This, as it stands right now, has a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you want a spoiler-free review for this new movie, go ahead and fast forward to the end for the actual rating. Otherwise, I'll break down a little bit of what this story is about. So, this is based off of the Universal Monsters version of The Mummy, not Brendan Fraser. So already off the bat, we are focusing more on classic horror. Lee Cronin is also the person who created Evil Dead Rise. This is the most recent Evil Dead movie out of the high-rise apartment building. I didn't really know that. I didn't look that up before I went to go see this movie. And throughout the whole thing, I didn't want to give it that much praise, but it really reminded me and gave me the same feeling as 2013's Evil Dead and definitely Evil Dead Rise. A lot of people, even at the end, like talking about almost the black comedy of it, were saying it feels like an Evil Dead movie, and now we know why. So this movie focuses on a mother and father and in the beginning, only 2 children, but then 3 children that are kind of going through an interesting time. So the father's name is Charlie. This is played by Jack Rayner. He was the boyfriend in Midsummer. So him and Leia Costa. Leia Costa is the actress who plays the mother. She's not really in anything that's relevant, but she basically could be a doppelganger of the woman from Bring Her Back. It's crazy how much they look alike. So already you have a little bit of the seed planted for the actual horror side. So Dad Charlie, Mom Larissa, they're living in Cairo, Egypt, because Charlie is a TV reporter. So while he's going out and doing his normal TV reporting, the mom works as a nurse, and so someone is always at home with the kids. Right now they have only 2 children, Katie and Sebastian, and they live a pretty normal life. So Katie is outside playing in the yard, and she's like, oh, my friend Layla said that her mom, it does magic. And so this woman comes to the fence of the backyard and she's like, hi, I'm Layla's mom. I wanted to come over here and show you a magic trick. Now, before we get any further here, we get a little bit of a flashback. So this woman who is Layla's mother, and we never really get her name, she is what we can only assume to be like a bruja, a witch of Cairo, Egypt. And she later comes to explain that there is a curse that has been put on her family, and the responsibility of holding this curse falls on the oldest child in the family. So she is now in charge of this family curse. And for this family curse, we'll explain more later, but for the very beginning of this movie, all you need to know is that this demon entity has to be put inside of a sarcophagus and contained until the actual body of the person who is in the sarcophagus starts to rot, not function very well. Then they need a replacement vessel. So the person who's been in this sarcophagus for whoever knows how long now needs replacing. So now it is on Layla's mother to find a replacement for this vessel. Now comes Katie. So Layla's mother is standing outside of the fence of where they live, and she says, oh, Katie, I'm Layla's mother. I'm the magician. I'm gonna show you a magic trick. And in very Black Phone fashion, she snatches her. So the father is at home at time. He runs outside to try to find Katie. He sees this woman running down the street, and that's the last that we see. So it then flashes forward 8 years later. It's 8 years later, and now they have moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a fantastic idea because the setting is very similar. So it's very sandy, it's very hilly, there's always something going on, but it's dusty, so there's not a lot. So now the whole family is kind of just depressing. They're just sad. They now have a missing child of 8 years and no clue where she's been. The missing persons reporter or cop in Cairo believed that the father did it, and so they weren't really super helpful back then. But lots and lots of hints of people going missing all the time in Cairo, people losing loved ones, losing family members, and not really finding them in great places and spaces. So now we go back over to Egypt, and this plane crash happens, and a sarcophagus falls from the plane, and thus we find Katie. So Katie has been put in this sarcophagus for the last 8 years to be the vessel for this demon. Her parents are just relieved that she's alive. Everything for her physically is fine. She's just really freaky looking because she's been wrapped up. And basically all the doctors are like, she's in there, but either it's just the trauma of her being trapped in this cage for 8 years or something else entirely, but like, you got to go slow with her. So they bring her back to America, to New Mexico. They're living in the house with Larissa's mother. So the grandmother is there, and the grandmother is just a very stereotypical Spanish grandmother, always praying, always making sure that the children are fed. Like it's all over the top. So Katie comes home and she's like, oh my goodness, what a miracle from Jesus himself. And so we should all pray about it. And so she starts praying over Katie, and Katie bashes her head and breaks her nose. And so again, we kind of know, even just from the commercial, that things aren't great for Katie. So movie goes on, and of course, like, things are just getting worse and worse. Everyone who's going around Katie keeps getting hurt. And then there's one scene in particular that, holy moly, is going to stick with me for a while. If you're queasy, just fast forward. So because she's been in this sarcophagus for so long, her nails and her toenails are all starting to kind of like curl over. And so the mom, because she's a nurse, is trying to help Katie. They have her sitting in this wheelchair and they're cutting her nails. And her toenail, we're all bracing for her to like rip her toenail off. And instead, she just pulls the whole skin from her entire shin, the toenails, shin, all off. And so it's like, holy moly, that's a rough watch. So she goes and she tries to wrap it up, and then because Katie is basically possessed, she just jumps up from the wheelchair and runs around the house. And then the father finds her downstairs in very Evil Dead fashion. This is the scene that made me think of Evil Dead from 2013. It was like a very similar shot to the girl that's in the bathroom in the 2013 version of Evil Dead, where she's like cutting her face with the glass. That's what Katie's doing, but she has a fire poker and she's just like destroying her leg. That's all purposeful, we come to find out. So Charlie is, as a news reporter, he's like, this isn't just weird jitters of being back home. Like, there's something more here. So he starts digging into some of the history of like what kind of tomb she was in, and any inscriptions, any pictures that were taken, anything that can mean something around. And he looks at her skin that she's just destroyed and ripped off, and there's all these words on them. So he consults a professor. This feels very Sinister style of like, we're tracking the pattern. Now we got to go talk to a professor. The professor is like, what are you researching? And we find out that the name of this demon, and I don't remember exactly what the name of the demon was, but basically it's a destroyer of families. And it will start with one person in the family, and then it will transfer to another and transfer to another and transfer to another until everyone in the family is dead. And then this thing gets to just be free. So these people in Cairo, this magician woman, has found a way to contain this demon and prevent bad things from happening in the neighborhood. And they say, like, prevent the valley from flooding. So Charlie finds all this out, and then in the very beginning, when Charlie's having conversations with Katie when she's like a normal child, they're practicing Morse code. And so he goes back upstairs and he's like trying to talk to Katie, and he's like, can you please just, if there's you in here, if you are indeed possessed, can you tell me something? Can you give me something? And so she does Morse code with her teeth, which is very, very smart. And, again, a good point for this kid. And so she does this Morse code to tell him it's Layla. So they're able to track down this magician woman who does tell them this whole story of, I've been the oldest member of my family and I have to carry this tradition, basically. And they then find Layla, and Layla's tongue has been cut out, and she's able to mumble enough to say, I tried to tell other people what my mom was doing, and she punished me for it. So there's a videotape, a VHS tape of Katie basically getting possessed. And so this this missing persons agent watches this video, calls Charlie, and she's like, we have some answers. Like, we can actually sort of figure this thing out. And you are correct. Like, there is a demon inside your daughter. So all while they're doing their own research in the background to kind of find out who did this, why is she resurfacing now, they also find out that the brothers of Layla, so this magician woman's, I assume, sons, were transporting the sarcophagus because they were afraid that they were going to get caught. And so during their transport, crashed. And of course, this is like worst case scenario because they said, like, Katie should not have been let out of that box. Bad things would not happen to anyone other than Katie if that box was not open, if the sarcophagus did not fall and open up. So now all of this shit starts to happen. And now it is horror gore central. We have the grandmother who's still trying to help, and Katie attacks her in true like demon fashion. Kicks her out the window of the second story of her own home. And then they keep alluding to all of these coyotes in the area. So Charlie's bringing Sebastian, and they have a now third child, Maud, back from school. And as soon as they pull in, the grandmother is being eaten by the coyotes. And we have a little bit of a Cujo moment where they jump up on the car. And Katie's just laying in bed, like perfectly, exorcist style as well. There is another exorcist moment for her too, like while she's in her bed, she's arching her back and freaking out. And so yeah, it's a good allude to the other movies and nod to them for sure. So after the grandmother dies, then it's just like batshit. The Maud gets sort of suggestively possessed, and so does Sebastian. So it seems like whatever this demon is has almost like telekinesis, where it's able to possess these people by just thinking about them or by calling their name. It's kind of like, as long as they get permission, then this demon's able to do whatever it wants. So Sebastian is sitting in this other room, like bashing his head against the wall because Katie is just making him do that. Maud has now ripped out all of her teeth, and now it's the grandmother's funeral. And again, it's just like, it's completely batshit. So the grandmother is laying dead in the actual funeral bed in her casket. She has her mouth sewn shut like any other dead person, and Maud comes over and pulls out all of the stitching. There's now a rotting hole in the ceiling from where Katie is staying upstairs. No one can see it, no one can smell it, no one can pay attention to that. And Katie just starts freaking climbing through the ceiling and to get downstairs. And so now she's climbing on the ceiling, jumps in the casket with grandma, and starts sucking the like embalming fluid out of grandma. So to me, it was like, what's the point? Like, it's not a vampire. She's not sucking her blood. Like, I don't think that was really necessary. I love it from a theatrical perspective, but it's not necessary. So, and then Maud takes the grandmother's dentures and puts them in her mouth because she's ripped all her teeth out. And the little boy, he's not really a little boy, he's like a teenager. He's got his head is like gushing. So now finally, every single person who is in this room can see that Katie is possessed. The woman from the missing persons agency in Cairo gives Charlie a call, and she's like, hey, I got this VHS tape. Now we can watch it and really like figure out if we can reverse this or something. The professor that Charlie has been talking to has kind of corroborated all of this. And so now we have our grand finale. The one thing I think is extremely stupid is now like right at the grand finale when they're still trying to figure out like what's exactly going on with Katie, like all the walls upstairs are basically turning black because it's just rot and soot. And I was like, even in the middle of the movie, I was like, you don't see these walls and you think there's nothing wrong with your daughter? Like, where's your common sense? So this woman from Cairo comes to their house for the grand finale, and it is just blood and guts, and it's a finale. It really is. And so now Charlie has said, like, I want to save Katie and I want to help her, so just possess me, finish this cycle of hurting this family and just take hold of me. So they recreate the mummification scene of what happened to Katie in the first place, get this demon to possess Charlie instead, and then we think that that's sort of the ending of the movie, but it's not, which is a great thing. So now we flash back to Cairo, and this magician woman was shot, but she's not dead. So she's handcuffed to this hospital room. She's laying on her side, and she's not paying attention to anyone who's coming in or coming out. And she's like, "You're late today to give me my snacks. Like, I have a headache. What are we doing here?" Like, just so entitled, so nonchalant. And so it's the mother, because she's a nurse, so she was able to kind of sneak in there, and the missing persons woman from Cairo, and they bring in Charlie, who is very clearly possessed in a wheelchair. And they're like, "You're going to go ahead and take back your family curse, and you're going to be the one to hold this demon for quite some time." So that's how the movie ends, is that this woman is hopefully going to be successfully possessed, and then everything will leave Charlie and his family alone. So that's the summary. I didn't really have any expectations of seeing this movie in the first place because I don't really care about like Egypt. I think it's cool to learn from more of like the metaphysical side, like when you tie in as above so below to more of the like alchemy studies and hermetics and things like that. But mummies never really did it for me. Like, that's just not my archetype. So I didn't really have any expectations to see this, but I'm really, really glad I did. So to get into the rating itself, for the story, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I don't think that it's the most original, and originality, I would also give it a 3 out of 5. I don't feel like I've seen something I haven't already seen. And for me to be able to compare it to Evil Dead Rise, to the actual structure of Sinister, the structure felt familiar, but it felt comfortable, which is why I liked it, but which is why I would knock it, if that tracks. For the acting, I gotta give it a 4.5. I didn't like the mom. I thought that she still did her job. They made her unlikable. It's not her fault. Like, that's her character is kind of unlikable. But again, I'm always super, super critical of children in horror movies, and they all killed it. So I have to give credit where credit is due. For production, this is really where I think this movie shines. It is very evident that they paid attention to the sets, to the setting, to the linear nature of the storytelling, to the time that they're talking, time difference between Cairo and New Mexico. I think the production gets a 5. This great. It's really very well produced. Money was put into this movie. And for scares, this is the scariest movie I've seen in quite some time. This is not a casual horror movie. This is a horror fan's horror movie. And I really, really appreciate it for that. I don't know for anybody else that I would say, like, I would recommend going out of your way to go watch it in the movie theater, but absolutely go watch it at some point, if and only if you are a fan of Evil Dead, and if and only if you can handle gore. So all in all, this movie gets a 4 out of 5. I was looking back at the reviews that we already have so far for 2026, and the last 4 out of 5 was more recent, for Ready or Not 2. So I was thinking, like, what one would I prefer? And I think they're both equally as good. I would recommend both of them. I wouldn't go out of my way to go watch either of them. I think the scares for this movie really make it above and beyond, and make me want to say, like, I really liked this movie, because it is pushing the boundaries. It is, not just a toenail rip. It's a whole production, a whole thing. And I like that. I like the commitment to that. And I am a fan of Evil Dead, and I like some of the comedy that's even sprinkled into this movie a little bit too. I think that that's needed, and I think it's really well done. So all in all, I would say I really like this movie. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it, but I would go out of my way to ask people if they've seen it. So yeah, check it out. If you haven't already seen it, let me know what your expectations are. If you have seen it, let me know what you think. Next movie for May is stacked. We have Hokum, we have Obsession, we have Backrooms, just announced as Exit 8. I think we're in for a really great ride, especially in May, but I'm looking forward to the next couple of movies. Thank you as always for watching, for listening, and we'll see you next time.